I mean, here's the thing, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this. It is, Aaron Rodgers said words can be deceiving and mean different things, but I think words and definitions matter, which is why I have a hard time saying this is a lopsided rivalry, because it has not been a rivalry in quite some time. Mm-hmm. What it has been is multi-year beatdowns, then a fluke that the team gets overly excited about that then leads to more years of beatdowns. So here is the history of Patrick versus the Las Vegas, Oakland Raiders. He beat them 4 straight times to start his career, averaging 35 points per game in those wins with 2 separate 4-touchdown games. They then finally got one and promptly took their team bus on laps around the stadium. Shortly thereafter, they had to fire their GM, fire their head coach, lost 6 more times to Patrick, where he averaged 36 points per game with a 5-touchdown and a 4-touchdown game. They then beat him one more time, got overly excited, and he then won a Super Bowl in their building, and now they're doing this. So his numbers in his career against the Raiders are, we can show it to you. I mean, there's nobody he tortures more.
30-4 is
30-4 touchdown interception. Average score is 34-19. And now, my real takeaway, Greg, is thank you. Because I was a little worried that late in the Chiefs season, they might hit a bit of a lull. They have a Week 12 game against the against the Panthers. They then play a Black Friday home game against the lowly Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew-led Raiders. Right after a holiday, short week, when you're not playing anybody tough. But now they won't. Because now you have somehow given Patrick Mahomes more ammunition for a team that has no business giving him any ammunition. So that was my takeaway from it, Greg.
Well, I loved it.
Oh,
really?
I did. I actually did. Whatever fan brought that to the practice, kudos to you. Because what the Raiders need is to, regardless of how someone has been treating you, beating you up, you got to show that I'm not afraid of the big bad wolf. I'm not afraid of the bully. I'm not afraid of the one who's on top. Like, this team have to change everything. And with Antonio Pierce at the helm now, understanding, like, I'm a bully myself. So I absolutely love this. They didn't shy back. I also love, on the flip side, Patrick Mahomes' response. Because if you watch that, his body didn't shift, his demeanor didn't change, nothing about him cared. And when you own someone the way that Patrick Mahomes has owned the Raiders, you dismiss it. The one thing you can do to kind of just almost disrespect someone who's disrespecting you, so not even pay them any, it's like,
yeah,
I don't care.
Right. The opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is indifference or
Absolutely.
whatever. Yeah, I understand.
Past that.
Well, okay. Sorry, shut up. Go ahead.
Greg, I understand trying to take a counter take to it. About, you can't be afraid of the bully, you have to fire back, and, Max Crosby right in Mahomes' face. If I made a list of all of the tough things in the world to prove that you're not afraid, far down the list, right after maybe unicorns, would be puppets. So the idea that they're like, man, we're not afraid of them. Get that puppet. That's going to work. So Antonio Pierce, I was wondering what he was going to say. He had a quote that said, we addressed it as a team yesterday and we nipped it in the bud. It's over with.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Shout out to Jonathan Jones at CBS.
Because I'm going to show a graphic that's very simple, but it also is telling, and that is playoff wins in the Raiders stadium. Because right now, the Chiefs, of course, famously have 1, and the Raiders have 0. Honest question. Since, you like what they're doing, Antonio, you can punch him in the mouth, all of it. How long do we think it's going to take until the Raiders lead this category? How long? If I were to say to you, it'll be 10 years before the Raiders have more playoff wins in their own stadium than the Chiefs do. Because keep in mind, for them to do this, they will need to almost assuredly win their division, which the Chiefs are in, and then win a playoff game. I'll go as far as to say, I bet right now the Chiefs win a playoff game in that stadium again before the Raiders do. Either another Super Bowl, or if the Raiders somehow host it as the division winner, the Chiefs are then the wild card in the playoffs and beat them. Like, how long? If I were to say, will they do it in the next 10 years? Would you take that bet?
That they would have more
playoff wins. That the Raiders will have.
Kind of tough. Wow. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, I mean, so what are we talking about? So why?
Years.
So
What? Take 10 years.
Here's the thing. Sometimes, so when I was in Green Bay, like obviously the Bears are a rival of the Green Bay Packers. The Lions look at the Packers as a rival. The Vikings look at the Packers as a rival, and in some ways they are, dividing the states. But when I got to the Packers, or when I got to the Vikings, it was the oddest thing to me that the whole idea was beat the Packers. And I'm looking like, what? What do you mean beat the Packers? And the reason why I'm saying this is because that's kind of how I see the Raiders. I'm not saying that they're going to win championships.
Right.
That
they did win a championship by beating the Chiefs on Christmas Day.
That's kind of where they are.
But that's my point of what I said. They've won they've won 2 championships since Mahomes came in the league. And then they went in massive droughts right afterwards because they celebrated them both like championships. They took a lap around Arrowhead after beating the Chiefs. And now, again, we'll see if they're going to have a drought after this one. We haven't seen anything yet. But the Kermit thing concerns me greatly. And also, of course, obviously, listen, Dusty's not here. So Bryn, intern Bryn, her final day. We had a great intern class this year, by the way. Great job by them. I mean, obviously on the board. By the way, this is the young man who did it, Trey Taylor, Ed Reed's cousin. I didn't know.
Oh, I'll give him a pass on that.
Ed Reed's cousin, Air Force guy, 7th-round pick. I'd like to like the guy. Unfortunately, this is now what he'll be known for. Kermit and Trey Taylor, you're obviously on the board. Like, what are you even thinking? What are we doing? And this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. Because in November, when we have forgotten about this, and the Chiefs are 12-1, what are you disappointed?
I thought that this was going to warrant their own half of the bulletin board or something.
No. Maybe if it were Max Crosby or, someone else.
Late July. Look how packed the board is.
I know. We're going to need a bigger board. And a lot of AFC West representation on the board. Multiple championships. Knicks is the same as Mahomes. Now a Raiders on there. A lot of stuff.
There's several just compliments.
There's a lot. Oh, I forgot about Antonio Pierce. We have the recipe to beat the Chiefs. A lot of AFC West chatter.
Greg, your reaction?
I don't mind this at all. I don't mind it one bit because at some point you have to understand what you're doing and what you're within. And you're within a business. And what you're doing is trying to put yourself in a position to make the most money and maximize who you are and the value that you provide. That team that you're with or any team. And what Dak Prescott understands is that I'm not exempt. Like, do I want to be here? Of course. I don't know one great player that has performed at a high level for an organization, was drafted by that organization, that is having success not only individually but collectively with that organization to a degree, that wants to leave. No one. So obviously Dak doesn't want to leave, but he also understands and is real with himself that I got to prepare myself and my family and whoever else is attached to me to where I may not be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback in the future. And if you are unwilling to do that, you are setting yourself up for disappointment.
That's exactly right.
Any player in the league will tell you that.
And he's alerting the Cowboys. I am not emotionally tied that I have to be here. 44 days. There's 44 days until the Cowboys open their season on Fox with Tom Brady on the call. And I am here to tell you that if a deal is not done by the first snap of that game, one thing I can guarantee and the other thing I feel very strongly about. What I can guarantee is it will be mentioned on the broadcast by Tom within the first quarter. One of the biggest storylines of this season is Dak Prescott's contract situation. That will be setting the template for the year. And the other thing that I feel very strongly about, if they do not get a deal done before that first game, he's not going to be their quarterback next year because someone will outbid them. They have had exclusive negotiating rights, and they have not been able to get anything done. The price is only going to go up, and if they don't have it done in the offseason, Dak is not going to all of a sudden in week 7 take a deal. No, at that point, you've taken all the risk already. Might as well go actually hit the open market. So if they have 44 days, in my opinion, to get Dak Prescott's deal done, and if not, this is his last year with the Cowboys.
Wow. Okay.
And I'll add to this really quick. And the reason why I feel like he would take that risk is because the very thing kind of happened to Kirk Cousins this year.
Yes.
Like, he played, 5-6 games?
Yep.
Got hurt, an Achilles, and then he still made that amount of money?
There is no real risk.
Yeah.
Do you think, you say there's no emotional attachment from Dak to the Cowboys. Do you think there's an emotional attachment from the Cowboys to Dak? This is Josh's graphic of the big 6 quarterbacks in recent, well, not that recent, we got Don Meredith on there, in Cowboys history. Now, none of them played for another team. They all ended their career with the Cowboys. Now, the odd part of it is there's different injuries and Aikman's concussions, things like that. There wasn't a sort of like Rodgers-esque, like we're kind of moving on from you. But do you think that the Cowboys kind of want to keep Dak? And
Well, then they would.
like, we don't let quarterbacks go to other teams. That's just, well, you get a star in your helmet, you kind of keep it.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm just going to treat it in the Jerry Jones era, right? So, because I think how they did things with Staubach and Meredith, like that's to me not as. Or I guess Staubach's there for the beginning of the Jerry Jones era, but the Aikman had to retire because of injury. Tony wanted to keep playing, and the Cowboys were like, "You have lost your job to Dak Prescott. You can't have it back." They let him have that week 17 game at the end, and that was it. And then he went into broadcasting. And so the Cowboys have made it very clear they are not comfortable making Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL. They have made that clear every negotiation he's had. The first negotiation he had was so protracted, they franchised him. They then franchised him again and got the deal done. This one, I don't know if you remember, Wildes, but a year ago, I was trying to get this story into the show when we were talking Cowboys. The Dak Prescott contract situation. And Wildes, America, doesn't love contract stuff. He certainly doesn't love contract stuff 2 years out. But it was...
Stay tuned for the Brock Purdy conversation.
Exactly. And so they could have gotten in front of this a year ago. They didn't. They had all offseason. They didn't. I think they understandably, Greg, have real reservations about if we haven't been able to actually compete for a championship with him on a rookie deal, with him at $40 million a year, how are we going to do it at $60 million a year? So I think they're showing their hand. And what I'm saying is I don't think that if he reaches this season, that next year, no matter what he does this season, how well he plays, that next year they're going to be the top bidder because there are 3 other marquee franchises out there that need quarterbacks that at least one of them is going to pay through the roof for him.
Who are those teams? I got 2.
The Giants,
the
Steelers,
and
the Raiders.
I didn't put the Steelers in there.
And I know I just spent the last 10 minutes making fun of the Raiders, but the Raiders are his marquee franchise as far as location and history and tradition. And so that's 3 teams that potentially need quarterbacks.
How many quarterbacks do you want on the Steelers, for goodness sakes?
Well, I mean, maybe one of them will work out, but you at least one of those 3 is going to go into this offseason needing a quarterback. Maybe all 3 of them will.
Okay. Greg, do you think the Cowboys Super Bowl window is closing here?
Well, it's typically only open in the offseason and then regular season, and then it just gets shut down in the postseason. So, yeah, it's closing. And if anyone believes that CeeDee Lamb not being present is not a problem and it doesn't impact this team, where have you been? What have you been watching? Who do you believe is the most important piece to why this offense was as effective as they were last year? So their window is closing. It's not all the way closed yet because we haven't played regular season, and it's typically they look good. They look great. They might be very alluring to a lot of people, maybe even myself.
Here's the thing that I didn't like about that quote. That's not a hard negotiation if you know exactly what the other person wants. It's actually the easy. Hard negotiations are when you don't know what they want or what they want is unreasonable.
Well, did you read this as CD wants more money than Justin Jefferson?
To me, they both want just about $35 million a year, which I have no sources with Dallas. I've never met either player. I don't hang out with Michael Rubin enough to have a relationship with Micah Parsons or C.J. Stroud. Yet, I told you guys in March, Micah's number is $1 more than Nicky Bosa's, which was $34 million. CD's number was the highest paid receiver ever, which in March was 30. Then A.J. Brown signed for 32, and Jerry was like, wait for more leaves to fall. Justin got 35, and now you're at 35 and $1. And I know you don't like that, but Wildes.
I'm just not. I don't know if anyone thinks he's better than Justin Jefferson.
Any of these contracts
he just signed
gone.
like 3 weeks ago.
But Wildes, does anybody think Trevor Lawrence is better than Joe Burrow?
Nope.
No, but there was enough space there. Those weren't right on top of each other.
Okay, so then I'll think of another example of it.
Jordan Love is going to sign now. Do I think
Jordan Love's going to get more than Joe Burrow? He's going to get more than. But regardless of what, NFL contracts are not slotted by who the best is. It is if you are in the bucket of one of the best. It's just order of whoever signs latest gets the most, and that's how the market moves up. That's what happens. Everyone knew that was going to happen, which is why not paying the problem is this. Their demands, CD wanting to be the highest paid receiver, Micah wanting to be the highest paid defensive player, those were their demands 4 months ago. That demand hasn't changed. How much it costs you to make that happen, I believe CD would have taken the A.J. Brown deal. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.